This is going to be an extremely informative radio transmission. Thank you for joining us. This is the day in the United States when the private central banks rob the dwindling middle class and transfer that money into their war chest to fund their global domination. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who 2 weeks ago quit his column and says he's riding off in the sunset, has agreed to do a few more interviews before he says sayonara, at least for the time being. He will be joining us in T-minus 1 hour to talk about a host of economic issues. Lord Christopher Monckton in the United States, set to be one of the keynote speakers in D.C. at one of the largest of many Tea Party rallies in the District of Criminals. He'll be joining us for a full hour before he leaves to go address the Tea Party. Lord Christopher Monckton joining us. Incredible new developments. There's been more than 50 climate gates in the last 4 months, since November. 4.5 months. More than 50. There have been 5 or 6 more this week. And he's also going to talk about government-run healthcare in England and how it dovetails what's happening here in the United States. Here's the Financial Times of London. Global warming graph attacked by study. There have been many. Monckton's the first to expose the hockey stick as a fraud. More evidence is coming out of how they've lied about the glaciers and how they're actually rapidly expanding. And we have several other mainstream news articles off major studies showing it is the sun as the main climate driver. Secondarily, it is the moon. Old-timers throughout all societies knew that the moon was a major driver of weather. Fishermen knew 5,000 years ago that the anchovies swim into the shallow water at certain times of year when there is a full moon. For thousands of years, they know that crime goes way up at night during a full moon. Why is that? I'm already digressing here. I have a lot of news to cover. Because the moon creates giant tidal forces on the oceans and on animal and plant life, changing the chemical makeup of the brain with massive magnetic pull and force. We are timed to the moon. We are literally living, breathing creatures designed and built and growing on this planet. We are part of the cosmos. And of course, all the science now shows that the old-timers were right. It is the sun and moon, that's just common sense, that drive climate and so much more on this planet. So another big study on that front. Also, cows absolved of global warming with nitrous oxide. They've done tests adding huge flatulence bags to cows to engage in these complex studies and test, and have found that obviously the methane and other things they're releasing are not hurting the earth. What do you think creates our atmosphere? Sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen in the carbon cycle. Everything we exhale, everything we do is part of the cycle. There's always been bovine creatures, whether it's the buffalo of North America or the oxen of Europe or the buffalo of Africa or Asia, the water buffalo running around eating plant matter with their 3 stomachs and passing gas. Passing gas is not evil. Paying a tax to Al Gore will not save you. I noticed some of you, that's a conspiracy theory. You think that flatulence is new. It just started last month. But no, the moon and the sun are what's controlling much of the planet, and flatulence is normal and part of the atmosphere, part of the cycle. All right, we'll get a little more serious here when we get back and plunge into all the news. We got a very full plate, and the provocateurs are out in force. Stay with us. Let me get into the latest news on the First Amendment and provocateur actions. This is a story out of the local newspaper in Youngstown, Ohio. And notice how they just dryly report this on the Valley newspaper's website. Protest march to replace gun law rally in Campbell. Now, They tell you that you've got to get a permit to march. That's not true under the First Amendment, and it's been found in state and federal courts over and over again that's the case, but usually people don't sue to prove it. New York has lost a bunch of lawsuits. This started in the last 100 years or so, though, for the St. Patrick's Day Parade or later the Macy's Parade in the last 50 years. If they want to block giant roads through the middle of Manhattan or Chicago or Houston, Texas or Los Angeles or Detroit, and if you want to have a big parade with floats and everything else and shut down 5 or 6 major roads on the route, absolutely. You've got to get sponsors. The courts have found you got to pay for it. You've got to have a plan. You've got to go to the city. That's different. That's a parade, generally pushed by businesses as an advertisement promotion. But if you want to march down the sidewalk with 10,000 people, or if you want to go march to the steps of a Capitol, or you want to march to the steps of the police station or the city hall, you do not need a permit. And it's despicable that I keep seeing patriot groups and libertarian groups and others showing up at city halls and police stations and getting permits. Getting permits. You create the false precedent, and then the cops, just like the public, get brainwashed than anybody else. I can't tell you how many times I've been in D.C., New York, Austin, Texas, and have cops walk up and say, you can't be out here with 100 people outside this hotel Rick Perry's in with a bullhorn, I'm going to arrest you. And I said, officer, I respectfully remind you the First Amendment, we're not blocking any roads or traffic, and we're here, and this is my First Amendment, and I will remind you the city of Austin and the state police in Austin have lost scores of lawsuits over this, and this has been decided. Now, I suggest, Sergeant, you get your commander before you get in a serious civil rights lawsuit. They came back. They said, there's the riot police. We're going to arrest you. And I said, okay, you go ahead. You can beat the rap, but you can't beat the riot. I will sue you personally. And they backed off. And that's all on video. It's on YouTube everywhere else. Alex Jones protests Rick Perry. I'll bring it up for you. And I don't do that because I want to confront the police. I do that because I must defend the First Amendment. And you read this article, it says a rally that was planned to protest a ban on gun sales within city limits is turning into a quick protest march, and its organizer is backing out of promoting it. The Youngstown State University branch of the Young Americans for Liberty had planned a rally at the city building at Tenney Avenue on Saturday afternoon, coming up this weekend. But Varg Freeborn of YSU chapter president said Tuesday that the city police chief has ordered the group to pay $2,000 for 4 to 6 police officers to work at the rally. That's what we pay taxes for, cops. If you think it's so dangerous, people are having rallies and you're shutting down the Second Amendment and shutting down commerce in the city, and the people want to come out to the city hall and protest it, the city's own cops can't tell students, you got to pay me $2,000. Next it'll be $10,000. Then it'll be $100,000. This has been found to be unconstitutional, and if you force it, it's racketeering. Freeborn said the group was withdrawing its request for a permit to have the rally because it doesn't have the money. Freeborn told the newspaper that it appears the group is being made to pay for exercising its right to free speech. We have a right to peaceably assemble, he said. Freeborn said they were told last week by city officials that there would be no fees or permits associated with the rally, but Tuesday they were told about having to pay $2,000. And he says, we promoted it, we got ready for it, they did this the last minute. Look, they're going to go ahead and have their rally, and who knows what these thugs will do. Ohio is mooey tyranny. All right, we'll come back, get into the Provocateurs straight ahead.
But I swear it was in self-defense.
Imagine we pay our taxes to offshore banks. That's what the Federal Reserve is, a holding company. And all over the nation, they're banning gun sales in major cities and small towns, you name it. They've got the police chief in the article saying, well, gun sales in the city cause law enforcement too many problems. How about cops just come to our door and tell us to come massage their feet or mow their yards? You know, oh, you can't have a protest, it's too much trouble for us. Oh, you can't have guns sold in the city, it's too much trouble for us. Oh, we're God. You know, just pay the taxes and shut up. Freeborn said that even though there won't be a rally and his group will not be involved, Wow, easily discouraged. Ohioans for concealed carry is expected to assemble at City Hall for a protest. March. It will start at 2 p.m. Saturday. So everybody in Ohio needs to go to this town and be part of this. The march is to protest an ordinance that bans the sale of guns in the city. The ordinance bans all gun sales within city limits, but was in the process of being amended to exclude private sales by residents. The intent of the ordinance is to prohibit gun stores in the city and was drafted by a Hubbard man's attempt to open a gun repair shop on Robinson Road in October. You can't let slaves open a gun shop. I mean, come on. Can't let slaves sell their neighbor a gun.